Hey gang, what's up? Welcome back to another edition of Intuitive Angling. Hope everybody's having a good day out there today, and just wanted to do a quick video today. I wanted to follow up on the video I did this morning when I was talking about the title was I lost a 14 pounder right here, fishing bluffs. And I forgot to tell you guys the story. I'm going to tell you the story about when I lost what I think, and a buddy of mine that was fishing with me during the time, was the Missouri state record bass on Table Rock Lake. And it's going to sort of give you guys the background story on that. I think you guys might find it a little bit interesting. But anyway, what the deal was with this was in March of 1981. And I was fishing with one of my good buddies, Terry Fitzgerald, that I went to school with my whole life. We fished a lot together back then. Table Rock Lake, March 1981. And this was back when Table Rock was awesome. It was before the lake was polluted, before the lake had gotten raped by developers that bulldoze off all the hillsides like they do now. Lake was in a really pristine state, and it was clear. Table Rock now, you don't have near the water clarity there because of all the pollution that goes into the lake from the development. But back then, water was super clear, 10 to 20 foot visibility in a lot of different places. And in this particular time frame, during the early 1980s, if you fished down there in March, it was exceptional if you did not catch a 7 to 9 pound bass during the day during the pre-spawn down there. It's like, I'm going to guess 80% of the trips that we made in March down there, at least one of us caught a 7 pounder. And now 5 pounds wins big bass in the tournament. But back then there was a lot of 7 to 9 pound bass in the lake. And this particular day that Terry and I were out fishing together, we'd been fishing down there several weeks before that, catching them all on the old Rebel spoonbill minnow jerkbait. This is before any of the modern jerkbaits. That's what we fished down there. And back then, Table Rock had a bunch of standing cedar trees in the water, super thick cedar trees. Excuse me, almost like if you saw a cedar tree growing on the bank and take all the green off of it and stick it in the water. Table Rock had a ton of those type of cedars in it. And in the pre-spawn down there, these big largemouths suspended around those cedars, and we'd catch them on these spoonbill rebels, weighting them, fishing them next to the cedar trees. Got hung up all the time, but they caught a bunch of big fish. So this particular day we were out there, and we started in this one cove, and we caught a couple, good ones early. And we were working down this one stretch, and Terry caught a 9 pounder on the spoonbill rebel. And, which, not that it was like typical, but I mean, it didn't surprise us catching a 9 pounder. And we worked down a few trees later, and he lost another good one. We never saw it. And then we were coming up to the point of this cove. It was a steep main lake cove that was coming up to the main lake point. And there was 5 or 6 big cedar trees on there. And I cast that spoonbill rebel out there, let it sit next to one of those cedars, and all of a sudden my line just jumped like that, which one sucked it in. I set the hook, and when I set the hook, I thought I set it into a limb. It was just super solid, and then the fish started pulling. And I'm fighting this fish, and it's between 2 cedar trees, so I have no idea how big the fish is at this time. So I get it in between the 2 cedar trees, and I'm fighting it to the boat. And, it's, not really pulling hard, but it's super, super heavy. And so, Terry's up in the front of the boat with me there. And I work this fish closer to the bank, closer to the boat, and the water's clear, 10 foot visibility. I got that fish probably 8 or 10 foot away from the boat, and we both saw it. It was the biggest bass I have ever seen. Like I said, Terry just put a 9 pounder in the boat. This thing dwarfed it, and this thing is just wallowing back and forth under the water with the spoonbill rebel in its mouth sideways. And so I slowly pull it to the boat, and it gets about 5 feet from the boat, wallows around some more, and the spoonbill rebel comes out of its mouth. We could see the fish perfectly, the side of it and everything. And it's like, I just couldn't believe it. I was devastated. Terry and I looked at each other, and he goes, that was a 14 pound bass at least. He thought, and, I would agreed with it. I mean, after just seeing him catching a 9 pounder. And when I got the rebel back in, the spoonbill rebel, what had happened was the Rebel was real bad about the hooks fouling on them, because the middle hook hanger was pretty close to the front and the back, and it happened all the time. And what had happened is those hooks were fouled, and that fish didn't get hit. I think what happened is when the fish hit that Rebel, those hooks were fouled when he hit it, and he just had the bait in his mouth, and he didn't even have a hook in his mouth, or her mouth. Pretty typical for that. But anyway, I'm confident Terry was too. That had been the Missouri state record. Out of all the lakes I fished across the country, that was the biggest bass I've ever seen in my life. And I caught an 11 pounder at Lake Okeechobee one time, maybe a 12 pounder. Didn't get a chance to weigh it, but it was just unbelievable. But it gradually went down. Every single year, Table Rock went downhill after that. Like I said, it's just a shadow of the lake it used to be. So many people started keeping those big ones and mounting them. Too many tournaments, too much fishing pressure, lakes getting polluted, a lot of different stuff. It was pretty sad. But back in the late 70s and early 80s, guys, that was the place to be to catch them on jerkbait. So just wanted to share that story with you guys. Hope you guys are having a good day, and we'll talk later. See you.